Hey everybody, welcome back to Board Game Blender. I'm Zee Garcia. Today we are going to be talking about cooperation and betrayal. Before I get to that though, I want to give a big shout out and a big thanks to Michael Friesen and tell you to go check out Space Junk, Nautilus Industries, and some of their other games over at lamplightgames.org or at your local friendly game store. And keep an eye out for a game of theirs coming out called Whelps to Worms, and that's like a dragon rampaging, dragon pillaging game coming out from Ricky Perez. I actually got a chance to play this game at the West Texas Tabletop Con, and I really liked it. It was a neat concept. It was a clean design. So check that out, and a big thanks again for helping us out as a show. So today, as I said, we are getting to cooperation and betrayal. We have lots of good stuff to talk about. As always, feel free to enjoy the show however you want to, jump around, do whatever you want, but please have a good time, and I'll see you in just a little bit. Here we go.
Hey folks, welcome back to another segment of Real Talk with Sam. Thanks for joining back, being a friend of the blend. I do want to talk about a couple of games here that really hit home this whole idea of working together, but then there's some betrayal that happens, and that is this bad boy right here, Battlestar Galactica. Now this has a little bit of a different, it is not a straight co-op game, of course. It does have a very specific betrayal aspect to it. You are all under the guise that you are humans trying to get Galactica and all of the ships that are with her to safety, but as the game progresses, the likelihood that one or more of you are Cylons secretly working against the rest of the group. I've always been a fan of Battlestar Galactica. Back in the 70s, used to watch it when you know, Richard Hatch was on there, and those guys, and Lauren Green was Commander Adama, and I really enjoyed that series. When the new series came out, I was anxious at first, but then it, you know, as it progressed, it got better and better and better, and the characters were very real and very fun to follow throughout that series. So when the game came out and it had the new face on it, or the new faces rather, I was very pleased with it. Even more than that though, this has some great pieces to it, especially if you buy some of the expansions. The board is not, you know, ingenious, but it is very functional, and it carries with it that theme of being on top, being inside a military vessel, because it's very stark, it's very just very cut and dry. So Battlestar Galactica is high on my list on this idea of cooperation versus betrayal, and games that hold both of those aspects to it. Another game that you might not usually probably think of when you think of cooperation and betrayal, but I think it really holds this little dual genre very well, is this game right here, Cosmic Encounter. Now I have said some disparaging things about Cosmic Encounter because I do think in many respects, and with certain people, it is an overrated game. I don't think that this should hold a best game of all time in anybody's department, but you know, people are people, what can you do? Cosmic Encounter though does have the feel of, while it is not a cooperation game, it is a negotiation game, a bluffing game. There's a lot of different aspects to it, but it carries the feel of a cooperation game because you do ask people to cooperate with you as you're going to attack other people, and then the people that you're attacking ask other people to cooperate with them on the defense, and so forth and so on. And there are parts in the game, there are times in the game where it is absolutely advantageous for you to invite people and then stick the knife in their back and betray them at the very last second so that you come away with a solo victory. There are specific times, and there are a lot of those specific times where you are wanting to cooperate with one another, but then at the same time, there is a lot of those times where betrayal is necessary and advantageous. So if you have not yet thought of Cosmic Encounter as a cooperation and betrayal game, maybe you should. Listen, I'm just trying to keep it real, y'all. See you on the flip side.
Hi everyone! You know that pain, that deep twisty hurt that you get kinda in the center of your back when someone betrays you in a game? Well, if you love that feeling or love causing that feeling, then you better be playing lots of Cutthroat Caverns. This game and Nothing Personal are the two games that I've seen players get genuinely angry in, not because they're losing, but because that's the way the game goes. So to make sure that you're having fun playing games of Betrayal, I'm going to give you a few of my tips on how to make sure you have the maximum backstabby fun with a lot less disintegration of friendships. But first, let's take a quick look at the game for those of you who might not be familiar with it. Cutthroat Caverns is a kind of dungeon delve that is semi-cooperative in that monsters are too big to defeat on your own, so you have to work together. But ultimately, there's only one winner. Mechanically, Cutthroat Caverns is very simple. Each player gets a character, and as a team of adventurers, you will have to conquer 9 encounters, and the player with the most prestige points at the end wins. The key is only the person who strikes the killing blow in the encounter gets the points. So it's always this balance of letting opponents get in their hits to weaken the monster, but thwarting them at just the right time so that you can go in for the kill. Cards drive everything, including initiative, which is randomized each round. And there's some great diversity amongst the encounters, whether you run into a Boogan who tosses more Boogans at you, or bump into the riddle room that forces you to play a memory game. The stress you feel when you play is real, whether it's because you're worried about the endless horde of the undead, or you're worried about the buddy to your left with that wicked glint in his eye. Alright, so if that sounds fun at all, let's talk about my 5 tips for surviving deep betrayal among the cutthroats. Set everyone's expectations appropriately. Make sure everyone knows what the game is about. Thankfully, it's an easy game to teach, but before you set it up, ensure people understand that alliances will be broken and potions will be stolen, and double check that they're on board for that kind of romp. This is definitely the kind of game people need to be in the mood for. Play with people you know. I cannot imagine pulling this game out with a stranger, someone who I don't know how they're going to interact with the group or how they're going to react to the way the game goes. Plus, if you've got that player who gets super upset whenever they lose or carries angry grudges for weeks on end, maybe that's a good night for Forbidden Desert instead. Play it quickly. Thanks to simultaneous card selection and the high level of interaction, this game moves along at a quick pace. That said, if you have AP-prone players, try to nudge them along, because the longer the game goes, the more time people have to simmer in their frustrations, which is usually a bad thing. Play with people who will get into it, just not too into it. You want to play this with people who will have fun with the theme and get into their character a bit. If you don't invest in the experience, it's just not as much fun. The game is meant to have life in it. But, of course, there's a difference between someone who will yell and pout for the rest of the game night and someone who will moan and groan in character. Play with people who can handle direct conflict, because the cooperative elements of the game are purely a facade. Sure, you may have to collaborate with other players to defeat the encounters, but there is never a moment in this game that you aren't calculating when the right time is to cancel an opponent's card or redirect damage their way. It's not called co-op caverns for a reason. I'm not sure why I enjoy games that have a take that or betrayal element to them as much as I do. Maybe I'm just expressing my inner darkness. Or maybe I just thrive off of chaos and drama. But for whatever reason you enjoy these kinds of games, Cutthroat Caverns is sure to bring out the best meanness in any player. Just make sure to follow at least a few of my tips to prevent any long-term fallout. Oh, and one more bonus tip for you. Always play on a table firmly bolted to the ground. See you next time.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week of Board Game Blender. You know, I'm a big fan of traders in board games.
I also like trading goods and services.
No. I said traitors, as in someone who betrays everyone who trusted them.
Yes. I also like traitorous scum. Except for Londo.
Right, so many games have some sort of traitor mechanic in them, and many of them do it well. Winter and Shadows over Camelot both thrive on the possibility, but not guarantee, of traitors in the game. Another take on this mechanism is for the traitor to not even know he is one until a certain point in the game, such as with Betrayal at House on the Hill and Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica, however, also uses the mechanism where one of the traitors knows from the beginning that they are the traitor and must hide amongst other players. Recently I played Spectre Ops, which does not have a traitor and must play with a full complement of 5 players. In the game I played, the hunters were quite capable and were able to close in on the agent fairly quickly. This forced the agent to take a route to his objective that ended up exposing his ally as the traitor. The problem is, in Spectre Ops, once the traitor's exposed, he really doesn't have a whole lot he can do during the game. Once exposed, the traitor becomes an agent. However, he's not allowed to complete objectives, but if he dies at the hands of the other hunters, then the game's over and the hunters win. So he's really encouraged to stay completely away from the hunters, who won't be hunting him down because he's no threat to them. They're only a threat to him. Now, the traitor is able to throw smoke grenades or flashbangs to try to assist the main agent in his quest to complete the objectives, but he can't really communicate with the agent as to where he is. So any of this sort of interference that he runs for him is going to have to be kind of a guess, and there's not any real way to coordinate this effort. The bottom line is this: in most games, being the traitor is exciting, stressful, and thrilling. In Spectre Ops, being the traitor basically means you can't do any of the cool things the hunters can do, and you can't do any of the cool things the agents can do. Spectre Ops is a great game, but in my opinion, if you want everyone to have the best experience, keep it to 4 players and under. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and Vader, you want to sign us off?
If you're bored online, then evil will always triumph, because good is dumb.
Hey guys, Tiff here. Towards the end of last year, I introduced my Board Game Club kids to what I considered a straightforward worker placement game. Little did I know they would take it beyond the realm of dry Euro and into a table talk-laden take-that extravaganza. The game I'm talking about is Lords of Waterdeep. At first glance, Lords of Waterdeep is a simple worker placement game for 2 to 5 players with a pasted-on Dungeons & Dragons theme. Players assume the roles of rulers or lords, using their agents to recruit clerics, fighters, rogues, and wizards to complete various quests, thus increasing their influence over the city. Each lord has a unique scoring condition for the end of the game. The majority of the gameplay involves taking turns placing your agents on various locations throughout the city. Many of the spaces provide you with cubes, which represent the various adventurers and allow quests to be completed for victory points. The Builder's Hall is a unique space that allows players to add locations to the board. If you place your agent there, you get to choose one of the 3 available buildings to purchase. Once placed on the board, the building is under your control, so you'll receive its benefit if one of your opponents decides to go there. Lords of Waterdeep is a little more interactive than most worker placement games because of its intrigue cards. These cards can be acquired at the inn or castle locations, then played at Waterdeep Harbor. Some of them allow you to steal resources from other players, others provide opportunities for your opponents to willingly give you resources. There are even some that benefit everyone, which makes for some interesting decisions. The most provocative intrigue cards are the mandatory quests. These are quests with abysmal payouts that, once received, must be completed before any other quests. They're irritating enough that the mere threat of playing one is enough to persuade your opponents to do your bidding, so naturally they're coveted amongst the kids. After 8 rounds of play, everyone reveals their secret lord and scores the bonus points they've earned. As usual, the player with the highest points wins. It takes about an hour to play and is relatively easy to teach despite a bit of complexity. All in all, it's a great step up after playing the typical gateway games. I can safely say that playing Lords of Waterdeep with my board game club kids is a completely different experience than when I play with adult gamers. Since most adults I play with completely despise mandatory quests and confrontation, however mild, much of the interaction is lost when we play. I enjoy the game either way, but watching the kids embrace their roles as cutthroat Lords of Waterdeep, forming and breaking alliances, vowing revenge for their opponent's treachery really brought it to life for me. The kids definitely enjoy the slightly deeper strategy and interaction, so much so that we almost always have a game going on. If not in cardboard form, then on the iPad. I would highly recommend it for players that can tolerate a little interference with their planning, or for gamers that enjoy fantasy themes. Check it out, and I'll see you back next time.
Hey everybody, today's quirky game is going to be Lifeboat. In Lifeboat, which is a card game, you represent a character and you are on a lifeboat trying to survive. And the twist here is that one of the other characters is someone you secretly love and another character is someone you secretly hate. And you are going to be getting into fights, protecting other people that you are secretly trying to make sure survive. And it's a game with a lot going on in it. It's a strange little game that packs a lot of theme and a lot of circumstances into really a very small package, as you can see here. And while the game is a little bit clunky, and I do wish it was a bit more streamlined at times, I also feel it would miss out on some really funky thematic turns and twists it throws at the players if it refined itself to that point. And so it's a really good fit for a quirky game. It's a game that, if you want a very story-driven, backstabbery kind of card game, I highly recommend it. If you're worried about, having to read between the lines and slightly clutchy mechanisms and such, then perhaps this is not for you. I will say, I know this is a little bit hard to get, if I'm not mistaken, at the moment, but there should be a reprint coming out soon from what I've heard from the publisher. And so I would recommend you check this one out. Lifeboat, really neat stuff, great artwork, lots happening in this little game, and hey, watch out for that bucket of chum while you're in the water, because those sharks are gonna get you. I'll see ya.
What is this place? What is this island? Ah! And what is that? Shadows over Camelot. Cooperation and betrayal. Some kind of ancient artifact.
Hi, I'm Ilya.
And I'm Alina.
Shadows over Camelot is a cooperative game with a trade aspect. You all know the legend of King Arthur, Camelot, and Round Table. So you're the knights of the Round Table. You're trying to complete various quests. But there might be a traitor amongst you who wants to ruin everything and win alone.
The loyalty cards are dealt in the beginning of the game, and you don't know in advance, of course, who is the traitor, and the second thing, you don't know if there is a traitor. You might play a full game suspecting each other all the time, but without any traitor at all.
The theme is great. You have this Arthurian legend, Holy Grail, getting Excalibur, but the mechanics may seem a bit too abstract because you're playing poker hands constantly. Although the components, artwork, whole presentation of the game adds to the theme.
First of all, I actually don't agree that the mechanics might seem abstract. I didn't have that problem at all. So all actions are in cards, that's true. And on the board, there's lots of action space where you can go, lots of quests you have to complete. You basically never can do everything, so you always have to decide which quest you will abandon in order to win another one that seems more important. And all these decisions create the tension and suspicions amongst the players.
Why did Andres put the siege engine on there? There are already 8 of them. You could just take a black card instead. I think there's nothing wrong with the black card there. Why didn't you do that? I think I'll take a black card. It's alright, it's alright. Just wanna take a white one.
I wonder why he put the card face down. We don't know even if it's strong or not. He has to be the traitor. There is no other excuse. I'm hungry. I wonder if we have pizza left.
Oops, my turn. Oh, damn it! Excalibur moves once again. Oh, we're also so close to defeat. Sorry guys, I gotta leave. There's nothing, just don't have any cards for that.
Why didn't Alina discard any cards? She has so many cards in her hand. She has probably good cards. But then why doesn't she play them on the field? She must be a traitor, definitely. And you have different choices on your turn. Are you going to take the black card that has so many bad things going out there that may ruin all your plans, or you will put the siege engine, although the other players may start to suspect you, or you'll just lose your life, but then you might be out of the game very soon. There are lots of different choices.
There's one more thing that keep in mind, what was our mistake in the first game. You don't want to complete some of the quests too early in the game, because then you need to turn the board and it will basically create the siege engines like super fast. That's not good.
Yeah, and also this game is probably the gateway cooperative game, and when you're playing for the first time with new players or non-gamers, I think you might want to take away this traitor card from amongst the and play just a pure cooperative game.
Though that's just half not as fun as with the traitor.
Yeah, the traitor is fun, a lot of fun and tension and everything, so there might be or might not be a traitor. Würfel Reviews recommends this game, and I hope we'll see you in Essen.
We're definitely going to be there. Looking forward.
Oh yeah.
Hey everyone, it's MAGGIBOT for this episode of Blender, and for cooperation and betrayal to really impact a game, I feel like you can introduce it into most games. If someone is winning on the board and everyone can see it, the people behind can start working a little bit more together to make up the difference, to try and get back into the pack, which inevitably leads to a betrayal or even just a softening of an alliance to allow players to then build for themselves again. If you and I worked really hard to get ahead of the leader, but now that we're ahead of the leader, maybe it's time to kind of break apart just so that we could each win on our own. There is no such thing as a multiple win. Like, it's always going to come down to tie breaks, so it's much better to try and win on your own strategy. The most important thing I can stress is to take a temperature of the group that you're with before you try and add political elements where they're not explicitly written into rules. If you make other people feel like collusion and diplomacy was the game more than the game was the game, they're not going to love that. Whereas I feel like any game where there is a strong leader is one where I can introduce diplomacy to get past it. I do not accept a loss until it is a loss, so that can be up to you and your group. As far as games that build them in are concerned, I feel a lot of the time the one thing you can do that will enhance your experience is to pay attention to player counts. If a game says that it's best with 5, like Intrigue, best with 6, like Dominant Species, those are things to listen to because there's probably a reason. Some mechanics don't work as well at player counts as others, and especially with diplomacy, you want enough players in the game where you're not having to deal with a specific one at any given time. One that suffered a little bit of this from the market was Suzanne. This is a 4-player experience, and only 2 victory points in the game makes it very difficult to play at other player counts and very weird for new players to learn. A recent one that's actually really weird and cool is DR Congo, in which one trade route is going to give you the very best prices. 3 other trade routes on the other side of the map are going to give you lesser prices, but let's say a player is doing really well along the best trade route. Maybe you leave them to it hopefully the insurgents will come along and kind of keep them distracted, where you'll take the lesser payout but the more convenient trade routes on the other side. Some interesting co-op and betrayal elements in DR Congo, and the game is long enough where you can develop it. No matter who is winning, you can still come back into the game as a potential winner. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Hello, and welcome to Boards and Crafts, a place for quick tutorials with crafts and snacks inspired from games, for games, and all about board games. This week's theme was cooperation and betrayal. One of the best ways I've seen this implemented is in hit and roll games such as Ultimate Werewolf or The Resistance. It's so much fun watching a group as they devolve, as they try to reach their way towards their goals or just outs the traitor in these games. During one of my games of Saboteur the other day, I was thinking to myself, is there a more entertaining way of actually revealing these roles to ourselves? That's whenever I thought of it, hit and roll cupcakes. Here is what you'll need for the cupcakes. If you're going to do it from a cake, make sure you follow the instructions on the back, or you can do it from scratch like I will be showing you guys today. If you are going to do it from scratch, what you'll need is some sugar, some eggs, some vanilla extract, some food coloring, some self-rising flour, a little bit of butter, a paper baking cups that you can't see through for a little surprise later, muffin pan, some bowls to mix everything in, a mixer of some sort, and a spoon. Let's get started! So before we begin baking, preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Line a muffin pan with the baking cups. Now we'll be able to actually do the ingredients. Add in a large bowl 2/3 cups of butter and 3/4 cups of sugar until light and fluffy with an electric mixer or a spoon. Stir in the 3 eggs one at a time, blending well after each one. Stir in 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1½ cups of flour, just until mixed. Separate out about a spoonful of batter into one of the baking cups and stir in the red coloring dye, about a drop, into the batter until it's really red. For the rest of the baking cups, add a little bit of batter, and instead of using red dye, use blue dye. Next, you'll be using the plain batter and filling it up the rest of the baking cups. Stick this in the oven for 18 to 20 minutes or until it's slightly brown. Pull it out of the oven and let it cool for a little bit. After it's cooled a bit, decorate it as you see fit and put it out on a plate to serve it at game night. Congratulations! You just made the highlight of your game night with these hit and roll cupcakes. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope that you guys enjoyed these. Comment below if you have any ideas for tasty treats or creative crafts, or tweet them at me at ArtsyRobot. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you on the next blend. Look at the blue!
Hey everybody, so what's under the radar today? We are talking about Castaways. Castaways is a worker placement co-op game in which you are exploring an island and trying to do the best you can, trying to have adventures, survive, all of that good stuff. This might remind you of another game that came out at around the same time and has an extremely similar theme, even has a slightly similar look. And of course I am talking about that bad boy right there, Robinson Crusoe. But this one, the difference is that it's not a fully co-op game, and so at the end of the game a single player is going to win this one, where the betrayal comes in for our cooperative and betrayal theme. I really think this has gone very unnoticed. I'm not sure why. I think the story-driven elements in the game are great. I like the exploration where you draw cards, see what happens, you add that card to a deck of cards, and later on in the game that might resurface. And I think ultimately the biggest thing this game has working against it is the fact that Robinson Crusoe came out at around the same time and has just about the same theme, and yes, it's a better game. But that doesn't mean this is not a very good game as well. I enjoy the artwork in this one. I enjoy that the worker placement in this is really very simple. The components are well made. The flavor text on all the cards and everything. I mean, the game tells a solid tale, and I really like it for that. It's not a game I'm going to pull out all the time, but it's one I intend to hang on to for a while because I just love this theme, And this game really is like reading a book while taking part in the choices that those characters in the book make. And I'm a big fan of that. So I gotta recommend it. If you have not heard about this one, if you like co-ops, if you like story-driven games even, you gotta look into this game, Castaways. It deserves more love for sure. So there you go. That is the game for Under the Radar, Castaways. I'll see you.
Hi, welcome to the Bargain Bin. Benny here, and alongside me is Kirsten.
Hey.
And today we're talking cooperation and betrayal with a little game called Good Cop, Bad Cop. Kirsten, take it away.
Good Cop, Bad Cop was published in 2014 by Overworld Games. It is a 4 to 8 player game and has an MSRP value of $19.99, but you should be able to find it anywhere from $13 to $14. To start out the game, each player is given 3 cards to place in front of them face down so that their opponents cannot see. These cards determine whether you are a good cop or a bad cop. If you have more honest cards, you're a good cop, and if you have more crooked cards, you're a bad cop. And the only time when this is not true is if you were given the agent or the kingpin card. If you're given either one of these cards, you are automatically of that orientation. So if you're given the agent card and you have 2 crooked cards, you are still a good cop, and vice versa with the kingpin. To play the game, each player can go around on their turn and look at 1 card of one other player to try and determine who is on their team and who they are fighting against. And in the end, to win the game, if you're a good cop, the way you win is to kill the kingpin, and if you're a bad cop, you want to kill the agent.
Yeah, and this was a slam dunk for us. As soon as we heard that the theme was going to be cooperation and betrayal, we knew instantly we wanted to do Good Cop, Bad Cop. One reason that is the whole game is kind of centered around trying to figure out who's cooperating with you and who's trying to betray you. And often it's a very thin line and you get it wrong a lot. So prepare to shoot your own teammates a lot. But that's the fun of the game, is the interaction with the players, trying to convince each other what side you're on. Sometimes you're being honest and just can't convince the other person that you know is on your team to team up with you. So that's just a lot of the game, is figuring out what information is misleading, what information is correct, and what you can go with so you can identify, who's cooperating and who's betraying you. But another reason we love this game is we picked this up this year at Gen Con. Now, it didn't come out at Gen Con, but we had been hearing a lot about it and wanted to get it into our collection. And I think since Gen Con, it's our most played game. It works in so many different groups. We've played it at a casual barbecue with a bunch of non-gamers, and they loved it. I mean, people were coming to the table and wanting to get in on the game. We ended up playing 8 rounds in a row. It's just a really fun game that seems to go over really well because our gamer friends love it too. There's enough game there that they really sink their teeth into it and get into it. And so for us, this was a no-brainer. If you're looking for a nice, light game that's going to have a lot of cooperation, a lot of betrayal, some hidden roles, you're going to want to get Good Cop, Bad Cop. We can't recommend it enough. So this was our game this week for you, for the Bargain Bin. We appreciate you, and we hope that you'll tune in next time.
Hey everybody, my designer spotlight this week is on Alan Calhammer. He's only designed one game that everyone knows, but it is the ultimate game of cooperation and betrayal, and that game is Diplomacy. Now, when I think of diplomacy or cooperation, betrayal, or any of these topics that we're talking about this week, I think about what this game has done, not just being the ultimate game of backstabbing and betrayal, but also working with other people. But the game has led to other games having diplomacy outside of the game. So there's a lot of games where people diplomatize, even though it's not part of the rules of the game, people will diplomatize, and a lot of that came from this game in particular, where diplomatizing is the whole point of the game. So he invented this novel game called Diplomacy, and now it has taken on many, many forms where other games use diplomacy, or people will use diplomacy outside of the game setting. Well, if you do this, I'll go here, or something like that. Now, in Diplomacy, you don't have to stick by those things, just like in any other game you don't have to stick by it, and that's where the betrayal comes in. So you have a lot of cooperation, and you also have a lot of betrayal. And to me, Alan Calhammer has designed one of the best games out there if you're looking for a game with both cooperation and betrayal, and that game is Diplomacy. It is a winner.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Face Off. Today I am pitting two games that both do secret roles and hidden infiltrators amongst you sort of gameplay. I am talking, of course, of The Resistance, and the other game I'm talking about being pitted up against The Resistance, Mayday, Mayday. You may not have heard about this one, but they are very similar games in their gameplay, and I thought they would both be an interesting matchup here. In The Resistance, of course, you have a corrupt government and infiltrators in your little rebellion that are with the government and are trying to stop you from your sabotage missions and such. And in Mayday, Mayday, you are on a plane, the captain has died, and you are trying to figure out if there was foul play afoot and figure out who's allowed into the cockpit of the plane. And so, again, using my very own bias, I am going to be pitting these up, starting with number of players. Here we go. So, the number of players and scalability. The Resistance says 5 to 10 players. Mayday, Mayday, 5 to 8. There is an expansion that goes up to 10 for Mayday, Mayday. However, I think Mayday, Mayday scales better than The Resistance. The Resistance doesn't quite work the same for me with all number of players, and Mayday, Mayday stays interesting no matter how many folks you've got around the table. So the nod goes to Mayday, Mayday. Game length is up next. The Resistance says 30 minutes. I think that's about right. Mayday, Mayday says 25. It's closer to 45, really. And so for this category, I have to give it to The Resistance. It's a quicker game. The gets off the ground to a faster start. And if you want simply the shorter game, then this is the one. Replayability is up next. I think The Resistance from game to game can be more different than Mayday, Mayday. Mayday, Mayday sort of plays out the same way each game, whereas The Resistance has those special cards. Mayday, Mayday has some special cards, but they're not nearly as fun as the ones in The Resistance. And so if you just want the most replayable game here, then The Resistance is the one for you. Game tension is up next, and I have to say, both of these games have some nice tension, but Mayday, Mayday walks away with this one because I think it has a nicer pace to it. It's like a slow burn. It's heavier on the deduction, whereas The Resistance is a little heavier on the role-playing, maybe, on the party feel. Mayday, Mayday has a greater build to the tension. So, like I said, it's like a novel that slowly develops, whereas The Resistance feels more like a short story. And so, if you just want the most tension from your gameplay, Mayday, Mayday is going to give it to you. So, overall, which of these two games do I think is the better game? Well, it's kind of a tough choice. If you want a game that's got more deduction in it, that is a slower burn, it's perhaps something you won't find as replayable, but the experience itself is going to be something you talk about for a longer time, then Mayday, Mayday may be the one for you. However, I am still going to give the nod to The Resistance because I think this is going to have a longer shelf life. It's the filler version, almost, of this genre, whereas Mayday, Mayday steps just outside that. And while I don't intend to get rid of this one anytime soon, I think this is going to come off the shelf and hit the table simply more often because it's a little easier to drop down, play it quick half an hour, and have a good time. So, The Resistance is the winner, but Mayday, Mayday is right on its heels. Thank you, folks.
folks, welcome to Corner Chat. This week we're talking to Isaac Vega, and we are here at Plaid Hat Games. How cool is that? All right, so you have designed a few games with co-op and Betrayal. I suspect that you know a little something about it.
Maybe.
So tell us the origins behind Dead of Winter. How did you get there?
Well, Dead of Winter was developed by me and John Gilmore. John had been hosting these monthly game events for a long time now, and I attended them a long time ago. When I went to one of them, he had this game that was a zombie game, and I was like, "Oh, this is very interesting," and it made my brain start burning. And I was just like, "Oh, okay, I have all these ideas." So I went to John and I said, "Hey, John, let me go ahead and take this and do whatever I want to it, and come back. And if you like the changes, we can go ahead and move forward and do co-development." So I brought it back and completely changed pretty much everything. Like I just completely scrapped a whole bunch of stuff. But there was a lot of things that I really wanted to implement into the game, and then from that point on, we went back and forth a little bit, and moving forward with the product. And it still took 2.5 years after that point to get it to where it is now. Wow. And crossword cards weren't even developed until 2 months before production.
Wow, that's cutting it close.
So yeah. So there was a lot of changes, a lot of development. This game took a lot of love and a lot of heart to get to where it is, but we were very, very happy with the result.
Great. So when you have co-op and Betrayal in mind, what are the main challenges you faced when combining those two elements?
Well, the biggest challenge was making sure that people felt like they had a unified goal, and they also felt that they had their own goals and their own interests and heart, which gave them more of a personality. So how we solved that problem was being able to give characters a main objective that everybody had to complete in order to win the game, but also their own secret objectives that they had to complete in order to win the game as well. So that created this interesting push and pull between players, because it's like, okay, why are you doing that? Are you doing that because you need to complete your secret objective, or are you doing that because you're actually working against us? You know, so there's lots of interesting tense points based on those individual objectives versus the colony's objective.
Yeah, and it makes it so thematic, because that's the way every zombie movie and such is, right?
Yeah.
So that fits well. So, but like so many others, they have to ask, why zombies? Another zombie game.
That was a question that was asked a lot by playtesters as we were developing the product. People were constantly saying, "Oh no, not another zombie game. Oh, why would you want to make another zombie game? There's so many zombie games on the market." And the more and more that we continued developing it, it just felt zombie. It felt that theme, and it just we couldn't let it go. So as much as we tried to, maybe it's like, oh, okay, we'll make it some sort of post-apocalyptic guys in the wasteland, or they're wolves or something. It just didn't feel right. Yeah. So zombies is what we ended up going with, because it just was right for the game. And here at Plaid Hat Games, we love to develop themes and mechanics simultaneously and have them all feel that way, and it just felt so intuitive to the process. So that's why we stuck with it.
And I have to agree. I mean, it really draws you in. The whole theme works well. So you know, we're here. We have some prototypes, right? So
yes.
What's up next for Dead of Winter?
Now, this is a Dead of Winter expansion that I've been working on. What it is it's going to be a complete standalone box expansion. It's got another big box. And what you're going to get in it is you're going to get a standalone game that you can go ahead and play right outside the box, but you can also mix it with your old copy of Dead of Winter. So you can go ahead and have a whole bunch of new content for it.
That's awesome.
So what's interesting with this is that you're going to get a slew of new characters. You're going to get 20 new characters. You're going to be getting new main objectives, new secret objectives, new crisis cards. You're going to be getting another location. You're going to get new location cards in those all of those locations as well. You're going to be getting more zombies with alternate art. You're going to be getting a new type of zombie called Frostwalkers that are going to be in the game. You have this new threat called bandits that are also going to be coming into the game and providing lots of chaos and fun for you. There's going to be this new event type of deck that's also coming out and doing things. things, and the colony is also going to be able to gain improvements, so you can go ahead and customize your colony throughout the game as well, and make upgrades and make it more personal to your crew.
That's really good.
So there's lots of interesting little things going on. There's this new type of token as well called despair tokens that your characters can get despaired in. So there's lots of interesting things that is going to be going on in the game, and you can buy it as a standalone box, and you can buy it as a complimentary box to your already Den of Winter, and there's gonna be lots of cool content there for you. We just really wanted to provide something that was pretty epic.
Yeah.
for the Den of Winter expansion.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So you also have an app coming, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
The app is going to be for the crossword cards that are already available to you in the game. What's cool about the app is that it's going to be able to be read to you, so you can go ahead and have, you don't have to worry about stage fright. Right. You can go ahead and have someone else read them for you. It's going to be Eric Summer from Dice Tower. Nice. And there's also the option that you don't have to know what the results are, so you can go ahead and choose the different options and see what the story is going to unfold, so you don't know what's going to happen.
I like
based
that a
on
lot.
What you choose.
I think thematically that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and it was really only possible on the app. So it's going to be very, very nice to have that there for people. Hopefully, as the development of the app continues, we're going to be able to continue adding more features to the app, allow people to create their own crossword cards. We'll go ahead and also offer more packs of crossword cards as the app continues as well, that people can download and add to their game experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's all very exciting stuff. I can't wait. So, Isaac, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and folks, thanks for joining us as well. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.
See ya.
And that is our show, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us. Hopefully, I'll see you again in a couple of weeks, where we're going to be talking about tall tales and games that tell them. I'll see you then, and as always, thank you, and hey, stay a friend of the blend. I'll see you.